So anyway, hello everyone, my name's Adam Kelly. I'm here to talk to you about building an academic career. So it's a little bit of a paradox that I'm speaking to you about this, partly because I only joined the English department in 2013, which makes me means I have had one of the shortest academic careers of my colleagues. So what do I know? But for that very reason, I'm also quite close to you guys in career terms. You're sitting here right now thinking about whether to take a master's or a PhD, maybe setting out on your own academic careers, and it's not that long ago. I can still remember what that felt like, which probably won't be the case in 10 years or 15 or 20 years. The other thing that makes me somewhat appropriate to give this talk is that I actually did my own MA here at York. In 2003, 2004, I was a student on the MA in Modern and Contemporary Literature and Culture, which is the MA programme from which I'm now the convener. So after exactly a decade away from York, I'm happy to say that my own career trajectory led me right back here again. And of course, this doesn't make me unusual. As you've already heard, no fewer than, I counted, 6 of my current colleagues in English took their MA here at York, with a number of others also studying for their PhD here. And when you count the many former York MA and PhD students at work in other universities in the UK and elsewhere in the world, you can see that an MA at York is a very good place to start an academic career. So, how does one build an academic career? The main thing I want to do here is just to demystify a little bit even further than has happened so far, demystify the process for those of you who might like to become academics, maybe, but are not sure of the journey to that point. So I want to apologise in advance that I'm going to keep referring to myself in this talk. And this isn't because I'm a narcissist, I don't think. It's because my own career is the one I know best. And it's one I can draw broader lessons from. So when I was at the stage that most of you are now at, finishing my BA in my hometown in Dublin, I had no real idea of how one might go about becoming an academic. In fact, I wasn't even thinking in career terms at that point. All I knew is that I had come to love studying English more and more as my degree had progressed. And I didn't want to just stop because I had come to the end of my 3 years, which I'm sure most of you will agree is an absurdly short time to be studying at university. So, unlike in the UK, which is, I think, still the case, it's very common in Ireland to continue living in your parents' home during your degree, especially if you're from Dublin, as I was, where most of the universities are concentrated and where rents are high. So, as you can imagine, when I reached the end of my degree, I was itching to do something most of you have probably already done, which is to fly the nest and move away from home. I was therefore excited to look into MA programmes in the UK, and York stood out for me because of the coherence of the Modern Literature programme and the sheer range of interesting modules that were on offer. And it's only got better since then. So I applied, was accepted, and rocked up here in October. Now, the first thing to say about postgraduate life, now some of this has already been covered, but it's worth reiterating. The first thing to say about postgraduate life, whether at York or elsewhere, is that it tends to be more multicultural than at undergraduate level. Because many students who took their undergrad degrees in their home countries come to the UK for postgraduate study. For me, this was one of the most exciting things about my MA year. Living in Wentworth College, which is the postgraduate college on campus, with students from China, Japan, Taiwan, India and Greece in my flat, and having lots of friends on my course from a range of different countries. So this made conversations, whether about literature or about life, so much more interesting than they'd ever been before. And it didn't take me long in that environment to realise that I wanted to stay on at university and study for a PhD. It's an exciting place to be at York, and it was then and it is now, and it does encourage students to pursue PhD goals. But how does one go about doing that? Well, things have changed a bit since 2003, and students now tend to be more professionalised from an earlier stage, whether they're aware of it or not. Because of the way PhD funding now works, students need to have their project ready more or less by Christmas to put forward in January for funding. Some manage to do this during their MA year. Some only do it the year afterwards. Neither is right or wrong. It could, or many years down the line is also fine. Initial applications for PhD places are made to a particular university and a particular supervisor who matches your area of interest and who you would like to work with. Then you make a separate funding application to the consortium to which the university belongs. So in York's case, we're in what's called the White Rose College for Arts and Humanities, or ROCA, along with the universities of Leeds and Sheffield. All the funding applications we receive then are put forward for consideration by a group of senior academics from the 3 universities who meet to agree on which candidates should receive funding. Now, if you're lucky enough to receive funding, or if you are lucky enough to find another funding source, or you can self-fund your PhD, as Emily's already described to us, you usually begin in the following October. In most cases then, skipping forward, to be awarded a PhD, you must complete a thesis of approximately 80,000 words that constitutes an original contribution to knowledge in your field of study. Ideally, you complete this in 3 years and within a maximum of 4. But during your PhD, you will also do a number of other things that will help you to build an academic career. You will contribute to the research culture in your own institution, attending postgraduate and staff seminars and reading groups, and perhaps organising your own. You will attend academic conferences to hear the latest research in your field and present papers based on your own research. You will eventually send articles out to journals in your field in order to publish your findings. And you will, in most cases, begin teaching in your own institution, supported by your department's graduate training programme. All of this, alongside your thesis, will prepare you for the academic jobs market if you choose to follow that route after your PhD. So I'll again draw on my own career for some brief illustration. After my MA year at York, I returned to University College Dublin to take my PhD. I had given my first paper at the York Graduate Colloquium during my MA year, and this gave me the confidence to begin speaking at conferences early in my PhD. So in my second year, I presented a paper at an international conference in Belgium and was asked to submit the paper as an article to a special issue of a peer-reviewed journal, which resulted in my first academic publication. In my final year, I organised a conference myself on Jacques Derrida and America, and that was very good for meeting new people and making contacts both in my field and in cognate disciplines like philosophy. Also in my final year, I gave a paper at a conference in Dublin, and the keynote speaker, who was a professor at Harvard, was nice enough to compliment me afterwards. I kept up contact with him, which is a lesson for everyone. If you make a contact, maintain it. And when a funding opportunity arose through a Marie Curie Foundation Fellowship to study outside Europe, I asked him to sponsor me to come to Harvard. He agreed, and I spent 2 years there as a postdoctoral fellow, the years immediately preceding my job here at York. So that's how I ended up here. And I mentioned that stage in my career to illustrate 2 things. The first is that it is increasingly the case that the bridge between completing a PhD and a permanent academic post is served by either a postdoctoral fellowship or a series of temporary teaching positions. A postdoc is ideal because it gives you time to turn your PhD thesis into a book or series of articles and allows you to begin work on a new project. The second thing is that no matter how good your work is on paper, it's important to get out to present it so that people know about it. These days we call this kind of thing networking, which makes it sound either sinister or very high tech, or both. But it's really just about getting out and talking to people, showing an interest in their ideas and sharing your ideas with them. Like any job, there are particular stresses that go with being an academic. I'm not going to tell you about what they are, but it is on the whole, I can assure you, a very rewarding job. So I wish those of you who want to go that route the very best of luck. Thank you. I just want to say at the end also that we are going to be in the treehouse. For anybody who hasn't heard, we're going to be in the treehouse now for another hour. I'm happy to answer questions, so are all of the other speakers. There will be a talk by Tabish Kair here at 6 o'clock, which is going to be fantastic. It's already been highlighted by others. And just, I thought all of the talks, up to mine at least, were fantastic. So I'd just like us to thank again the other speakers from today.